Madeira and Azores. These are two beautiful Portuguese regions, but how do you choose between them? Well, Josh sits down with a couple who's from America on the West Coast. They've traveled a lot, they've been to both, and they are going to compare and contrast the two and give you the information you need so that you can choose what's best for you.
You guys have digital jobs that allow you to travel, but you have decided to spend a little more time in Portugal, and you have experience in the Azores, and also Madeira. Where are you guys right now?
On São Miguel Island in Azores.
Okay, so your first experience in Portugal, at least island life, was in Madeira, is that correct?
Yes, we spent five months on Madeira, and it was really even hard to leave there. We became really comfortable, but we were like, we need to see the rest of Portugal. We really just fell in love with Portugal.
What had you feeling so comfortable there? What was it about the life there? Were you in Funchal or a different part of Madeira?
We were in kind of different parts, from like Ponta del Sol to Caleta, and then we spent most of our time in Caniço, which is like maybe 10 minutes from Funchal, so not that far, but we tend to not be like huge city people, so we usually are like a little bit outside. But we found an apartment because he filmed for the property management company, so we were lucky to be able to rent one of their apartments at a good rate, and but we really just fell in love with, I guess, the small town life there, and the nature and the weather, and what do you think?
Yeah, it was a little, we're from Los Angeles, not really the heart of LA, but I myself have always been growing up in city life. So it was a little bit of an adjustment for me at first, where I was like, oh, it's a lot more mellow, and I feel myself driving around there, and I was like, I need to relax. Like everyone here in Madeira, I'm still learning the pronunciation, is way more relaxed. I mean, all of Portugal, for the most part, I've seen is that. So, yeah, that was a great experience. It was really nice. We showed up in April, so we caught a good amount of weather. The weather always seems to be really good there, so it's fun.
Nice. Well, it's funny that you mentioned that you guys are city dwellers by birth, I guess, being in Los Angeles and then shifting to kind of that slower small town feel. I'm the exact opposite. So I grew up in a small town, and then I feel like it's more fun to be in the big cities. So you spent some time in Madeira. What was the adjustment like? Because that was the first spot in Portugal that you landed. What types of things did you need to do to adjust?
I think it was definitely a shock, because previously we had lived in Croatia, Italy, and then we spent 5 months in Turkey. And so I think going from like Istanbul, Turkey for months to Madeira was a little bit at first like, we're on an island now.
Okay. Slower pace of life too, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it was, I think another thing was, as mentioned, we do a lot of digital work. I mean, we just, as long as we have laptops, we're good. We're starting to really learn like establishing quicker as far as finding the nearest co-working, what are some good coffee shops, and Madeira being relatively new to the whole thing, we found it pretty easy to find. There's several nomad communities out there, which is really helpful. Also, depending on where you're at. We were both in 2 different areas at the same time, and so she was in Ponta del Sol, which was, she lived pretty much on top of a co-working. I was in Caniço when we first started, and a little outside of the city, but we adjusted. We made the necessary adjustments relatively quickly. I think as we've been moving, we've learned to do it a little quicker. Like, this is where the gym is, this is where the co-working, this is going to be our favorite coffee shop. But we always try to keep an open mind towards what's there. We try to engrave into the cultures as much as we can.
Nice, man. So daily life for you guys is kind of that rhythm where you wake up in the morning, you grab your breakfast, maybe you go to the gym, you go to the co-working space, right? And then do you cook at home, or are you always eating out? What's that like?
We're big cooking at home. We try and make it like we're literally living wherever we are. And I love to cook, and I mean we're always trying to, you know, not like to budget, and eating out can get kind of pricey, but most of all I think it's just like we love, like we've kind of just gotten used to everywhere we go to the market every week. Yeah, we definitely rarely eat out.
Yeah.
I feel like here, especially Madeira, we tended to eat out a little bit more, I think, because when we would go out somewhere, we were so far from home, and we found a bunch of places that we like really liked the food there.
Yeah, fair enough.
But here we kind of have barely eaten out.
Yeah.
Who's the cook of the family?
I'm gonna let her answer. I don't know.
I think me mostly. Like I think I come up with like the interesting, like fun recipes, but he's like the amazing like steak. He's really good at steak and burgers and
typical man dishes. Yeah, for the most part, we have a pretty solid routine as far as shopping, cooking at home. Occasionally we eat out. We really love pizza. I mean, we do try to, everywhere we go, we try to get the authentic experiences of the dishes.
Sure.
But we also, again, this is our life, and so we're not on a 2-week vacation where we just go all out. Every day we're eating out. It's our lifestyle, so we have to kind of budget accordingly. But it works out, and I think we have a great time doing a little bit of both, and we enjoy it. Sometimes we'll come up with new dishes.
Okay, well, so going back to the budget, you guys were mentioning a bit about being budget conscientious. Have you noticed any difference between the budget that you had on Madeira and then the budget in the Azores?
I think it also depends on what we find. I feel that we had a tighter budget when it came to Madeira. I mean, for the most part, we have, and it's a habit we're trying to break, is that we've been more chain shopping, so Continente. And it was funny, we met with a local the other day and we told him that, and he's like, no.
He was like disgusted that we go to Continente.
So again, we do try to find the places that are local, obviously more inexpensive, and it's just, we have a better time supporting local businesses and locals rather than the, you know, catastrophic
we
size.
did notice like the produce here is very expensive at the supermarkets because it's all imported, and the produce at like all the little local fruterias, they're way cheaper. But I feel like Madeira and Azores are both pretty like they're pricier than mainland Portugal when it comes to groceries, because everything's so imported.
Sure, it has to be shipped in, even if it's from the mainland. It still has to travel a distance. Yeah.
And I would say the restaurants, it's kind of random. We've walked into super local places that we would think would be like a really cheap meal, and we've spent way more because we've gotten like the local fish or something, and next thing we know, we've spent way more than
35 euros for.
Yeah, so it's kind of, I feel like the restaurant pricing is very all over the place, but
also kind of, I would say it almost depends on where you go, but where we went and we paid a decent amount of money for one of the fish dishes was in the middle of a local town down here. So I think it does vary, and I think you start to get a feel for which restaurants areas are a little more budget friendly. But yeah, I think it's a case-by-case scenario for the most part. We haven't noticed anything where it's like an exuberant amount of difference, but
I think rent for sure is way more expensive on Madeira because they're used to getting a lot of shorter tourism, and so I feel like cost of rent or even for short-term or long-term is pretty expensive on Madeira. Both islands' cars have been pretty pricey too.
Okay, let's kind of zoom in actually on Azores, if you guys don't mind, because we've talked a bit more about Madeira. So How many different islands have you been to in the Azores?
We've only stayed on São Miguel the whole time.
Kalie and I haven't even visited there yet, so that's a place we need to visit. We have been in Madeira, but we haven't been in the Azores anywhere. So okay, so São Miguel, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We've tried to find time to branch off because there is 9, I believe.
Yeah.
There we go. Perfect. But yeah, I mean, the island, São Miguel, has kept us so busy as it is. And I feel that, at least on my end of things, I'm still learning to balance something where we can enjoy the places we're at more than just working more. So it's something we're working on, but we're pretty set on filing for residency in Portugal and then moving back to Azores. And then we will make sure to save time to explore the rest of the islands.
Okay, so you've been on São Miguel for how long?
3 months.
3 months, okay. And what was the adaptation period like there compared to what you endured in Madeira?
I feel what the first thing that really stuck out is the distance between a lot of the places. Also, as mentioned, the rented cars were relatively still pricey when we got here because we had just came at the end of summer just about. So
right,
rentals were pretty outrageous. And so we spent the first few weeks on foot here, and quite frankly, it's a little more difficult and a lot more time consuming to walk from place to place. We're in a town called Achadinha, which is in the Nordeste region, which is about a 40-minute drive from Ponta Delgada, which is the city here, the Funchal equivalent. And there would be no way to ever walk there.
And there's only 2 buses a day.
Direct lines that take you straight there. Kind of similar because on Madeira I would take the bus from Caniço to Funchal, and there was every other hour there was the direct line, the express line to Funchal. But here I think there's only about 2 a day, which is
I think the biggest thing was immediately we were looking around and we realized it's all way more just farmland and cows everywhere. And that was the first the thing we said out loud when we were on the way here from the airport was just oh my gosh, it's green and cows everywhere.
Yeah.
That's how we get that good dairy.
Yeah, exactly.
Dairy is a very big thing here for sure. Cheeses, milks. The host that we've been blessed to stay with blesses us with fresh milk just about every week, and so that's been a really nice. Fresh cheese.
Brilliant.
We like more of the aged cheese. The fresh cheese is an acquired taste for us, but we do enjoy it on bread. I think the more of a custom here is the fresh cheese on bread, and then with a little
jam,
like a pepper jam.
Oh, okay.
Which is good. It's good. But we've made the mistake several times of just ordering fresh cheese and not knowing what to do with it because it's do we just eat straight fresh cheese? And it's more of a wet...
It's very soft, right? It's like a spread almost.
Yeah. It has to be spread on bread. Otherwise, you just have a block of, a circle of wiggly cheese.
Jello.
Yeah.
And I wonder how many times the locals have been you just want cheese, nothing, no bread. Oh, all right.
Other than the cows and the amazing dairy that you can get there, have you guys been able to make friends and connect with people the same way that you did in Madeira?
Yeah, I think it's a little different where Madeira, we had a harder time most of our friends were expats living there. Where here all of our friends are pretty much locals. So I think that Madeira, it's kind of more challenging, I think, to connect with the locals because a lot of them are it's really hard, it's a mix on Madeira of locals and a lot of people coming from other European countries and having houses there and going there for half the year or so on. Where here it's everyone's pretty much locals and there's not a lot of I think a lot of experts are starting to come here, but it's not as big as Madeira. So yeah, we've actually made a lot more local friends here.
I think it may also be subjective to where we are, because as we mentioned, we're in
Right.
the Nordeste area, which is very local, very untouched, relatively far from the city. And I think we've accustomed to island lifestyle where it's like, oh, we're going to go to the city. Or no, we don't go to the city, as if it's like 4 hours later or a flight away. It's like, oh, it's less than an hour. But really start to be accustomed to that, because being from Los Angeles, it's like kind of drive everywhere.
Right.
Here, it's like, well, you go 5 minutes down the street, and that's enough for the day, which has kept us pretty grass-rooted with the people we connect with. We don't know if it's a sign from the universe or it's just our luck, but we've connected with some very nice individuals here that are from the island, which we are taking as a sign of like, okay, this is our place to be.
Cool. Well, earlier you kind of alluded to you needed to work on your Portuguese. So how's the level of English there? Like, how are you getting on, just getting by with English?
I feel like everybody pretty much knows English. Yeah, I think.
Okay.
And if they don't, it's like we always express to them that, like, we always ask them, like, can you help? Can you, like, tell us what words we should be saying? We're always trying, and I think just that alone helps, like, bridge the barrier, and we end up figuring out what they're trying to say to us and what we're trying to say to them without either of us understanding each other. But yeah, we definitely need to take some lessons, because I think our problem is, being from California, we have more of like a Spanish background, and so we want to
Sure.
naturally say everything in more Spanish, and then we haven't quite nailed the
And some
the
words in Spanish are the
pronunciation.
same, and then some are completely opposite. It's
Yeah.
like, that will not work. That's not the same.
So true. So it's been relatively easy making friends in both places. Like you wouldn't really say that one's better than the other. Is that right?
Yeah, I would say that it's been somehow we've easily made friends in both places. I feel like, I don't know if, because when we were in mainland Portugal, we were only there for a month, so maybe we just didn't have the chance, but definitely Madeira and here, we easily made friends. And I think it's more of like that small town feel where they're like constantly inviting us to dinner.
Yeah.
And so
Cool.
it's been easier to like really build on friendships, because like both on Madeira and here, all the friends we met constantly, like almost every
It
week,
was a
invited us
pretty
to dinner.
continuous thing.
Yeah.
Oh, guys, yeah, that's brilliant, because I mean, Kalie and I have been here for over a year, and it's very rare that we get invited into a Portuguese home. Yet when I talk to people that are living in some of the smaller towns, and then certainly, you know, the island life, we hear this more often, that people are more willing to open their doors. And it's not that people in Porto or Lisbon or Braga, for example, aren't friendly, because they are. They definitely are. But there's something about there's a divide, I guess, still between expats and locals, or foreigners and locals. But nonetheless, we're enjoying life here. I wanted to ask you guys if you can compare the two in terms of, who do you think that each island is right for? And we'll just stick to São Miguel and Madeira, since you don't know kind of the other islands of the Azores, because we've been told that they're quite different. So who do you think each place would be right for? What kind of person?
Right off the bat, I feel Madeira is definitely for more of an established nomad, or someone looking to relocate for more of a permanent lifestyle. That's maybe a little more integrated. I feel that Azores is more of a grass-rooted, more of a local country feel. But nonetheless, there still is the same feeling located in the heart of the city. I mean, you can get a lot. And we have found it being a little more difficult getting our hands on some of our favorite products. I think it's a good thing, but we love the gym. I love pre-workout, so none of the places on the island have that. Madeira, it was at my most local pharmacy, so get it whenever I want it. But that's a good thing. Don't need it anyways. But yeah, I feel that Azores is still adapting to the massive tourism. I feel like it's still relatively untouched when it comes to that. And there still are definitely a good share of tourists, but in comparison to Madeira when we were there, it's not even close to the amount of tourists we would run into.
I would say I feel like Madeira. So Madeira is really well known for their poncha, and I think, and like
We know.
Yeah, we gotta share.
and beaches. Where I feel like if someone were to like tell me what kind of trip they would want, if they wanted to kind of lay on the beach and go to a nice restaurant and have some poncha, I would tell them to go to Madeira. And if they want and do like the Lavada walks. But if they wanted to go on amazing waterfall hikes and have more of a nature and like a nature experience and more like connect with animals, I would say go here.
Yeah.
Because I mean we did a goat farm experience. We one of our local friends here has like their own farm, and
We've
so
done several.
so it's like really connected to nature and animals here. And I've looked into a lot of what tourists do here, and it seems to be more all nature focused, where I think Madeira people can have a nature experience, but most of them want to kind of, have a day at the beach, have some poncha, and then maybe the next day do a nice like Lavada walk. And
Right. So you guys have done a lot of these awesome things. Do you have a channel? Because you guys are content creators. Do you have a channel that people can check this stuff out?
Yeah, I have a channel. It's called Tiffany and Leah, and it's been nice. I've just been it's a mix of vlogs, and also I'm trying to document like all the individual experiences. Like we're gonna show the farm that we went to here, and we filmed the goat farm as well, and just kind of really trying to hone in more on like local experiences and support the locals giving the experiences as well.
Niko?
Yeah, I'm still working on the YouTube channel. I would say the best place to find my documented work is obviously the man behind the camera on Tiffany's channel, but I'm more of a Instagram native, so it's Niko.Rota, R-O-T-T-A, is where I do a lot of the cinematography I do. We try to have fun with it every day with what we're doing. As mentioned, we really try to film the local experiences, and we aren't very extravagant people with what we do. We really do enjoy being grassrooted, culturized, and enjoying what each place has to offer originally rather than manufactured. I really do get fulfillment out of filming locals. It's a barrier I'm still trying to break because I have a hard time, obviously the language barrier, but also the human feel of rejecting, of don't film me. But I found that in the Azores, it's everyone I've ever asked to film is more than happy. They would love, like yesterday we were in the city and I filmed a gentleman and he had this really nice mustache. I mean, it was huge. And I went to film him, and at first he was like, no. And I was like, all right. But then he fixed it up, and then it was like, bring it on. I got my mustache fixed, so.
He just had to get that wax, twirl going on.
If you watch any of my vlogs, and I have like really amazing shots of locals or cinematic shots, it's always just his footage that he allows me to like stick in my vlogs mixed with my amateur footage.
Tiffany, we feel you. We might have to snag some of Niko's footage as well.
Yeah.
Let's dive back into to this comparison real quick. I'm really curious about this. Have you noticed a significant difference in the cost of living between the two, like your monthly cost of living? If you don't mind me asking, how much did you spend per month when you were in Madeira, and then what are you spending right now in São Miguel?
Yeah, I get so Madeira was 600 euros rent. Here is 500 euros. But
is it a T1, T2?
It's a big three bedroom. Yeah, the thing is that both places we basically told them we would like put them on our YouTube and film film photos for their listings. So we were lucky to really get those prices. Otherwise, I would say they're generally around 900 or more.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So I feel that rent was probably a little more pricey. The average was a little pricier on Madeira, and then Azores was a little less on average. But again, to the exception of what we work with a lot of these companies or places.
I think Madeira definitely is way more expensive with rent because they're very used to getting a lot of nomads.
Right.
Who have, usually work like tech jobs or, have a little bit more income. So I think that they kind of took advantage. Like, they know that they're going to get the price. And a lot of times on Madeira, there's a lot of like big houses that they'll rent to just like multiple nomads at once. And so I think that's kind of so it's a little more pricier because it's really rare to find places that are smaller than like a giant house.
Sure.
There, where I think here there's a lot more like studios and apartments and little, kind of like little back houses that people rent out for a lesser rate. And then car pricing, I think, was pretty much it. Seemed that before summer and after summer, renting a car has been around €200-300, and then during summer it was like €600 a month, like pretty.
In the peak of Madeira, I would only find $1,200, and we got lucky, euros rather, and which makes it even more dollars. But Madeira was pretty crazy with the car rentals this summer. Also due to what I heard, the pandemic and a lot of the rentals selling their fleet, and so tourism comes back. It's like, oh, we can't really supply all this, or maybe that's an area they want to keep the prices up higher. I don't know. Who knows?
But I think if someone were to buy a property, it would be way cheaper here than Madeira. I think Madeira owning property, just because we had friends that are looking for a place to buy, and it seemed way more difficult and a little bit definitely higher price on Madeira.
And then food, have you noticed any difference? I mean, earlier you said that the foods were generally higher than they are on the mainland, but what have you noticed in terms of your budget?
Let's say we spend at the market usually €150 a week or 2 weeks.
Yeah,
lasts us like a week and a half. He eats a lot, so. But I definitely think that.
I feel it was probably like 15-20% more on the island, Madeira rather. And I think we've got it down to a pretty good routine here of being about, I should mention, like €150 a week every week and a half, give or take. Sometimes we like to binge and get a little extra snacks, and that'll run us up a little bit. But
I think here also they sell a lot of products here that are made on the islands, and those prices tend to be a little bit more, and we tend to always buy those products because they taste so good, and of course we want to support. So the cheeses are a little bit more pricey, and the milk and everything, and we get this Azorean tuna that we're obsessed with.
We probably have at least, I think, like 9 cases of tuna in our pantry right now.
Oh man.
Yeah, but it's all like local, so. But yeah, I think those products are a little bit more pricier, but it feels better that we're eating. Also, they have like, all the meats are local, and apparently, because our host has cows, and he told us that they have a rule here that if anybody buys like any of the meat at the store and it is bad, like they'll like trace it back to the farmer, and they're very strict on like the quality of meat and
also the animal's quality of life.
Yeah, they're very the animal has to have a good quality of life, so that's definitely something. Madeira is more banana trees and produce and pineapples. Well, here's pineapples too, but I think that we didn't really find a lot of local meats except for at the butcher.
I think a good comparison is for every one banana tree in Madeira is one cow here. It's kind of like the currency exchange here.
But yeah, I would say as a whole, food was around the same price.
Okay.
Well, you guys have tons of experience kind of living in different places, and at Expats Everywhere, we believe that living abroad transforms lives. So how has living abroad transformed your life?
Being more open, definitely being more open and vulnerable to the experiences around us. I think, again, that also just comes from a complete contrast of a lifestyle. Being in Los Angeles, it's still something that's still breaking into me, but I've learned to be more relaxed, more open, and just ready for whatever life wants to give me in the best and not so best ways. And also just embracing moments more. Seeing the world in general does that, but just where we've been, the moments have been so much more unique. Conversations here in Azores are so much more wholesome, real, authentic, and genuine. And I even walked away with a conversation with Tiff, and I was like, I've never felt so good just having a conversation with somebody, because it's not about what car do you drive, what job do you work, how much do you make. It's just simple, easy conversation that's just very refreshing and rejuvenating, because it's like, this is the human experience. Like, this is what I enjoy.
Brilliant.
Yeah, I think that for my entire life in California, I kind of never felt like I belonged there. I always just felt like I don't care about this lifestyle of like keeping up with the Joneses. And when I was around like 27, I moved to Hawaii, and that really just like changed my perception of life. And then I've lived in like Costa Rica and a couple other places, and I think quality of life is just insanely different.
Nice. Well, guys, it's been fascinating hearing about the island life. And if you all want to know more about the different islands around Portugal, click on this playlist right here and check out what there is to do in Portugal. Now let's get moving.